Yeah, we'll see if that happens. He's too busy rubbing himself in his own feces.
What's wrong with that?
Alright, well, I am going to play a story now by Nate Tower after the break, and thank you for joining us again. Have a good night. Right after Blut Aus Nord with the Procession of Dead Clowns from their album The Work Which Transforms God.
Nuclear Mouth by Nathaniel Tower. I was sprawled out on the pink vinyl chair when he entered the room with a steel welder's mask. I had met this dentist, Dr. Calvin, twice before. The first meeting occurred nearly 7 months ago at my last checkup, and the second was in the parking lot as I waited for the office to open. Neither of these prior meetings saw his face so opaquely covered. From the first meeting, he struck me as an odd man, from his hairstyle to his dress to his mannerisms. His head was adorned with golden curls that were closely trimmed in front and loosely dangling in back. The man wore tight-faded jeans that he might have been trapped in for the past 20 years. I had never seen anyone under the age of 25 in his office, yet he spoke to his patients as if we were all the youngest and most innocent creatures. "I'm now going to check on your upper teeth," he would say from a distance, with the hand gesture of a timid crossing guard. I wasn't very confident in his knowledge of dentistry, but I went to him nonetheless. He was brief, he was painless, and he was free, thanks to insurance. Had I known any of his intentions for that day, though, I would have sacrificed all of those things for any other dentist. "Hello, John," he said in the hollowness of a tin robot from outer space. Hello, Dr. Calvin," I said hesitantly, trying not to shake in the chair. "Oh, you can just call me Cal," his voice echoed through the mask. "Okay." I tried to study the man to make sure it was indeed my dentist, but I could see no part of his face or head. The clothes matched for sure, but that was not enough to determine identity. There was a momentary urge to spring from the chair, but the vinyl clung to me, refusing to let me out of the man's office. "Let's get you some gas," the man in the welding mask said next. "Gas? Why do I need gas?" "I'm just here for a checkup," I instinctively yelped. "New procedure," he said, as he jammed the gas mask over my nose and mouth with his ungloved hand. "Now just relax." My head now pinned to the chair by the force of the mask pressed upon me. I couldn't see, but I could hear the dentist activate the gas with a gentle tss that was followed by a rush of air into my lungs. I tried meekly to fight him off, but my arms would not budge from the armrests. The last thing I remember before awakening hours later was the lighting of the blowtorch, the long flame laughing at me menacingly. When I awoke alone in the chair, what must have been a few hours later, my mouth felt different. At first I couldn't really feel anything, but then I began to wiggle my tongue around, searching for my teeth. As I was exploring, the dentist returned, sans mask. "How's it feel?" he asked with a smile, his curly mullet flowing freely. "It feel good," I mumbled. Not surprising. That was the first time I've ever done anything that extreme. I'll have to monitor how you react closely. He approached me as he spoke, a flashlight in hand. "Now open up wide." I opened my mouth as wide as I could, but my jaw was weak. "Very interesting," he mused with the flashlight shining into my barely open mouth. "What's on?" I asked. "I can't even see it." "What?" "I can't see the bomb." "Mom?" "Yes, the bomb. I can't see the bomb." I gave the doctor a quizzical look that said much more than my broken speech. "John, I have performed something revolutionary here. I have removed all of your teeth and inserted a nuclear bomb in your mouth." He spoke with the evil tones of a mad scientist. My hands flew to my jaw and began prodding around, searching for something to disprove what I knew untrue. It was obviously a joke, but I still needed some confirmation. Of course I still had teeth, and of course there was no bomb in my mouth. "Hey, be careful there," the dentist yelled in a panic. He dropped the flashlight and grabbed my wrist forcefully. "Do you want to kill us all?" "What the pucker? I tried to wrestle free, but his vice-like grip was far too strong. The dentist's hands were powerful from years of working in mouths. My arms still restrained by his bulky dentist hands, he looked me in the eyes and spoke in a no-nonsense voice that varied greatly from the clumsy demeanor he had first brought into the office. "Look," he began, "you have been equipped with a nuclear bomb in your mouth. You are the product of an experiment, and you are the first of your kind. The smallest of false moves will result in mass destructions. Use your gift wisely." With that, he released my arms and departed from the office. "Oh, and don't brush your teeth. Or eat solid foods," he added before disappearing for good. I sat in the chair motionlessly for quite some time, the temptation to touch my nuclear-armed mouth running rapidly through my body. But I never gave in to the temptation. I didn't know how I was to use this so-called gift, but I would try my best to use it wisely. I rose confidently from my chair with the knowledge that I was the most powerful human being alive. I drove straight home and went to bed, telling no one about what had happened. I spent 3 days lying still in bed, not eating, not drinking, not brushing. At the end of the 3rd day, I arose from the bed and tried talking. "I have a nuclear bomb in my mouth," I said cleanly before giving a closed-mouthed smile in front of the mirror. Perhaps I had dreamt it all. I couldn't possibly formulate a normal sound without teeth and with a nuclear warhead installed somewhere in my mouth. I pulled back my lips. Sure enough, my teeth were gone, and a tiny device that I supposed could be a nuclear bomb was in their place. "I have a nuclear bomb in my mouth," I said with fists raised to the sky. "I have a nuclear bomb! A nuclear bomb! I'm more powerful than the United Nations!" I ran out of the bathroom, out of the small apartment, down the 3 flights of stairs, not bothering to close the door. As I rushed into the sunlight, I felt the surge of nuclear energy run through my veins. My molecules were moving thousands of times faster than the average human's. I wasn't even sure that I was human anymore. "Hey, watch where you're going, you scrawny punk," a man said to me tersely. "Go to hell! I have a nuclear weapon in my mouth," I shouted back. "Lunatic," I heard a woman snarl. "Suck my dick," I yelled at her. "Watch what you say, little boy," a man in a suit warned. "Shut your face. I have more power in my mouth than the whole country combined," I hissed. "Then use a breath mint," an ugly passerby shouted. These people were idiots. They didn't understand the enormity of what had happened. But there was no point in wasting my time with them. I needed to move on to something bigger and better. I knew exactly where to start. His name was Oleander. What a stupid name. He was an ugly son of a bitch straight out of the Army or the Navy or something like that. When I was 13, I came home and found him on top of my screaming mother, who was face down on the coffee table. My dad was out of town on business, and I came home early after another crappy day at school. I told him to get off my mom, and he told me that he was trying. I called the cops. He beat the crap out of me on his way out the door before they got there. The cops didn't do anything to him because of his military background, but I vowed my revenge. I kept track of his residence, stalking him weekly, knowing that one day I would find the means to pay him back. Today was the day. That filthy rapist was about to be blown to smithereens. I took a cab to Granger in Midland, stopping at a convenience store to buy a toothbrush on the way there. I told the cab to keep the meter running as I departed from the car and ascended the cracked cement stairs to Oleander's run-down excuse for a home. Rather than using the doorbell, I pounded furiously on the door, screaming his name. After a few moments, Oleander, all 250 pounds of him, appeared at the door. "Who are you?" he asked gruffly. The 12 years since he had last seen me erased any knowledge of who I was. "I'm John the Nuclear Bomb." "Get lost, pussy. I've got a nap to take and a woman to screw." The ogre tried to close the door, but I jammed my foot inside the doorway before he could slam it shut. I ignored the pain that shot through my foot and looked into my spine. "Look, asshole," I said in a wince. "You messed with the wrong kid. Don't you remember who I am? Think back 12 years ago. Think really hard." "I did lots of stuff 12 years ago. Now get lost." "You screwed my mother," I shouted through subtle tears. "Oh, it's the little sissy boy who called the cops. I couldn't recognize you with all the scars. I sure did a number on you." "I have a nuclear bomb in my mouth now," I shouted. "You should really have that checked out." He was about to push me out of the way when I unveiled my toothbrush and brought it up to my jaw. "What the hell are you going to do with that?" "Get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness or I'll blow you sky high." "All right, kid, do what you got to do. Let's see the fireworks." I opened my mouth and placed the brush gingerly inside, ready to somehow trigger the detonator. Wait a minute, kid, Oleander said with a sudden look of concern. Won't you blow yourself up too? I hadn't thought of that. I paused, my hand shaking violently, tears beginning to stream down my face. Oleander laughed before kicking my foot out of the way. It was all a lie. I had no powers. I was just a worthless, prematurely old fool incapable of even chewing my own fingernails. I lived my whole life as a coward, and now I was still nothing more than a coward. I couldn't defeat Oleander. I couldn't get back at former bosses or ex-girlfriends or stupid jerks from high school. All I could do was walk around with stinky breath and eat Jell-O and drink fluids. If there was anyone I needed to get back at now, it was that damn dentist. But there really was no point in that either. I stared at Oleander, standing on the porch pondering my next move, and decided that it was time to prove once and for all that I wasn't who they said I was. So I decided to just blow it all up for good. All of it. For good. I fiddled in my mouth with a toothbrush, watching Oleander's face closely, hoping to catch his grimace of hopeless despair as the explosion consumed his body right before my eyes. Unfortunately, there was no explosion, leaving me standing on the doorstep, nothing but a helpless fool. As the triumphant Oleander slammed the door in my face, I knew I had but one choice. I had to confront Dr. Calvin. I needed to know the truth behind my newly cumbersome mouth. I would barge into his office and demand answers. Either he would confess that there was no bomb in my mouth, or the dentist-turned-welder would enlighten me on how I could use what he had deemed a gift. If it turned out to be the former, I would bludgeon him to death with a toothbrush for making me a fool. If the latter, I would return to Oleander's residence and finally receive the recompense I deserved for the way he had defiled my mother. When I returned to Dr. Calvin's office, the receptionist gave me a warm but unsure smile. "Hi, John, welcome back," she bubbled. I couldn't tell from her expression and tone if she knew about the bomb or not, but her smile suggested she either knew about it or was interested in me. She was kind of cute, and for a moment I thought about flirting, even though she was obviously a few years older. But my business was with Dr. Calvin, not her. "I left something in Dr. Calvin's office," I mumbled through my armed mouth before confidently walking past her desk and into the patient area. It didn't take long before I saw the dentist's sans welder mask playing in the mouth of a patient who sat in the same pink chair that had held me captive hours before. "Calvin!" I shouted forcefully, dropping the formality of his undeserved title. The man turned around, his mullet bouncing on the back of his neck, his eyes as wide as quarters. "How can I help you?" he stumbled. "Is there a problem with your teeth?" "What teeth, you bastard?" Dr. Calvin turned to his patient. "I'll be right back, Emily," he said soothingly. "I think John is reacting negatively to the anesthesia I gave him earlier today." I had never been courageous in my entire life, but I felt different standing in the blandness of his office. I felt a surge of energy, possibly nuclear, pulsating through my body. It was different than what I had felt standing on Oleander's porch. This was real power. I knew I could stand up for myself, whether I was a wired bomb or not. "Tell her the truth, you mad scientist," I demanded, my enraged fist clenched tightly, my veins bulging bright blue streams along my arms. The fluorescent lights began flickering and the various dental gadgets began buzzing sporadically. "Careful," Dr. Calvin warned me, his arms outstretched in caution. "Just calm down. We don't want you to do anything you'd regret." "You made a fool out of me," I shouted as the room transformed into an eerie light show. I began to approach the dentist, who was still armed with sharp instruments designed for heavy plaque removal. "Easy, John, easy. You don't know your strength here. Just remember, if I go, you go too." Paying no heed to his warnings, I removed the toothbrush from my pocket and brought it slowly to my open mouth. "Don't move or I'll blow us sky high. I just need you to answer some questions for me," I said slowly, like one of those bomb negotiators from a cop movie. The lights continued to flicker, the gadgets continued to whirl, Emily continued to look terrified from her chair, and Dr. Calvin slowly moved toward me, hands still outstretched. "Give me the toothbrush and we can talk." "No way, I want answers first." Okay, can we at least let Emily leave?" I looked at the woman in the chair. She was rather cute, more attractive than the receptionist, and probably a little younger. Of course, at this point, she likely thought of me as a lunatic, but that was better than most women had viewed me in the past. In this moment, I was strong and powerful. I needed her as a witness. "The girl stays." Dr. Calvin gave her an apologetic glance. I could see her partially cleaned mouth clenched in fear. "Relax, Emily. I'm not going to hurt you. I just need a witness," I said soothingly. My fists unwadded themselves, and the lights ceased to flicker. It seemed like she relaxed a little, her grip on the pink chair loosening slightly. "Now, Calvin, tell me, did you really plant a bomb in my mouth?" With a look of both pride and shame, the dentist nodded his head affirmatively. "Can it be removed?" "Perhaps, but it would be too risky. It might detonate." Calvin's worried look informed me that he was telling the truth. "How do I use it?" Well, there are two ways. You can detonate it with any object by pressing it just right, which will create an explosion large enough to wipe out a few blocks. Or you can harness the nuclear energy to create several mini-explosions. If harnessed correctly, you can direct the power of the blast away from you. His explanation of my power made my head swell, which in